Okay, we are going to talk about how to correct a rider's posture when they're up in a saddle on their horse. Remember that we talked about working proximal to distal. So we want to start at the core, in the pelvis and the core trunk area, and then move out to the extremities, the arms and the legs and the feet last. Because if we tried to just ask this rider right now to bring her leg back underneath her, it's really hard for her to maintain her position because we haven't fixed her core trunk, okay? So the leg's still not going to go back. We might be able to pull it back, but it's more than likely going to move forward again on its own because of how she's balanced, okay? So first thing we're going to do is ask Serena to adjust her pelvis. So we're going to bring her and rotate her pelvis into a more neutral position. When she was arched back, pushed way back, her pelvis was in a posterior position. Now we've had her rotate and close her hip angle, so bring her upper body forward a little bit and rotate her seat bones so that she's sitting in a more neutral pelvic position. So as soon as we did that, we saw that her arms actually got a bend to them and became much softer. Serena, go ahead and back in that posterior tilt again with your arms straight out. Good. Okay, again, and close your hip angle and rotate your pelvis forward. And look, the shoulder then can come up over the hip, okay? Still keep your legs forward for me. I know you're a good rider, but we have to show some of these things that we want to correct here. Okay? So even though I fixed her upper body and her pelvis and her shoulders aligned on their own, okay? Again, go back into the posterior tilt for me. Okay, stretch your shoulders up, Serena. Yeah, if you don't fix the pelvis, it's really hard for her to sit tall, correct? Okay, relax your shoulders and let's bend forward from the waist again. We're going to close our hip angle and fix our midsection. And now her shoulders came into alignment almost on their own. So now stretch up tall with your upper body. Good, and she opened up her shoulder blades. Good. Okay, so she still has her legs kind of pushed out in front of her. It's going to be easier for that pelvic alignment to be maintained. We can help draw the leg back underneath. So let's bend at the knees. We're going to bring that strap and heel back underneath you. So we're trying to get that through her ear, shoulder, hip, down through her heel alignment so that she can be most effective in the saddle. Okay? And I think we have you in a pretty good position now, Miss Serena. One of the other things we really want to think about is where the rider is looking, okay? If the rider is looking down all the time, it's really hard to lift their shoulders. Serena, lift your shoulders up high so that you're going to end up shrugging. Good, now lift your eyes up. Now sit taller and lift your shoulders. Now see how she was able to open her chest? Okay, so there's a big difference on where that bowling ball, that heavy skull that we have on our bodies, really can affect our upper body posture. So getting those eyes focused ahead and lifting their chin is really going to help open up the rib cage and help that upper body stretch up. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to see Serena sitting in a dressage saddle. Again, we're going to look at correcting her position. So I wanted her to show you a little bit different movement in her pelvis. So now she has an anterior tilt. So her pelvis is tilting forward, which actually arches and hollows out her lower back, okay? And then you see as she tips forward that it draws her leg and heel up behind her. So Serena, go ahead and push your heels down. Nope, don't move your upper body. Okay, so you see as soon as she wanted to push her heels in position, it was easier for her to bring her upper body back. So in order to make this position correction, draw your legs back up again, we're going to ask her to adjust her midsection and her upper body first, and the leg will probably be able to balance and align from there. So Serena, we're going to think about bringing our shoulders back and pulling our tummy back to our belt. Good, and a little bit farther so we can rotate our pelvis. There we go. Okay, so now she has her shoulders over a more neutral pelvis. So she's rotated her pelvis back underneath her. She's sitting more on her seat bones, and now she can have a flatter back and have her shoulders in alignment. Okay, now go ahead and push your heels down and let your legs up underneath you. Very good. Okay, so it's a lot easier for her to lower that heel and get that shoulder hip heel alignment if we've adjusted the pelvis first. Okay, so when we had Serena in the forward seat saddle before, her stirrups needed to be much shorter in order to stay in alignment with the flap of the saddle. Some riders, it's a lot easier for them to keep their legs out in front of them, or if they're tighter, they may not be able to open their legs wide enough around the horse to open their hip angle to this degree. So a dressage saddle may be more appropriate for someone that can open that hip angle and needs a longer leg down underneath them. So we had to lengthen Serena's stirrups 3 holes in order for her leg to fall in the correct position here. Okay, but the dressage saddle does have a little deeper seat than the all-purpose or the forward seat saddle. So a rider that might need a little bit more support, the center of the seat is going to be easier for that rider to find just by balance of the saddle. and the higher cantle is going to help them from sliding too far back in the saddle. Okay, but one of the challenges of getting out of this equipment versus getting out of the more close contact saddle, the jumping saddle, is that the back of the saddle is much higher. So it might be harder for that rider to swing their leg up and clear over when they're trying to dismount. Okay, thank you, Serena. We're looking like we're in pretty good alignment now.